Hello, everyone, and welcome to this inaugural interview in navigating the jungle of business. Yes, today, navigating us through the marketing jungle is my guest, Chaz Volk, founder, CEO, and producer of Mr. Thrive Media, a marketing agency that specializes in podcasts. Lucky me to have him here first, isn't it? So, Chaz, what should people be thinking? What are some factors to consider when creating a marketing plan?
Well, first of all, I want to say it's always a huge compliment when people invite me onto their shows, and I want to thank you for having me. When people approach their marketing plans for the first time, I think it's best to basically engineer this in reverse, thinking about what is your end result and how do we get there. So if your end result is just an increase in web traffic, right? Well, that's actually a relatively simple solution. There's a lot of different ways to go about that. And there are some solutions that go into that. But then your messaging has to be in sync, and so does your strategy with that messaging. If those things are not in sync, then the whole entire comprehensive plan that you might have created could fall apart.
And an integrated marketing plan is really important, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely integral, especially in today's world post-pandemic, right? I think before 2020, a lot of businesses could get away with, just keeping it brick and mortar, using old-fashioned methods of marketing, whether it was an email campaign or cold calls, what you will. But post 2020, it's all in front of you on your phone, on your desktop, on the websites, and on your social media. Wherever you are consuming your content today is really where effective marketing is happening. And if you don't commit to those new styles, you'll be forgotten.
Ooh, that's scary. So in today's world, as you were referring to it, are users more reactive to inbound or outbound marketing?
It's a great question. I think from my experience, when it comes to, our work with Mr. Thrive Media, whether it is podcast production, any kind of content marketing, or any of the other forms of marketing that we incorporate into those two things, when it comes to outbound, which just means you're being disruptive, you're not creating any kind of tailored content. This is about something that just catches your attention as you are going by your day. You suddenly are scrolling through Instagram and you come across a piece of content that catches your eye. It has to be incredibly disruptive. So same thing with inbound, by the way. Inbound is you're now creating content that is specifically tailored to a specific group of people. When you are doing that, you are now that's really a matter of listening. So if you didn't listen well, your inbound marketing is going to fail. And also, if you weren't disruptive enough, your outbound marketing is going to fail.
Ooh, how disruptive could you really be? That's scary.
Well, especially in today's world, those concepts are being challenged all the time. I mean, there was a documentary made a long, long time ago called The Social Dilemma, right? That was on Netflix. You can still watch it today. And it talks about how everything is being tailored for our experiences. And in the advertising world, that couldn't be more true. Have you ever been walking down the street talking with a friend about that new thing you saw at the grocery store, and then suddenly you start seeing advertisements on that? While it might be a rumor, while it might be a myth, there certainly is big data being transferred to your phones about what your desires are, and they're trying to sell you on it all the time. So
My kids, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
My kids and I were talking about going to Reykjavik, which is Iceland, right? Now that's pretty remote and certainly not run of the mill. And that's when we started getting everybody on our phones, flights to Reykjavik, flights from, that was shocking.
yeah.
That was the first time I really thought about it.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Now I'm going to get advertisements of the flights to Reykjavik. So look at that.
No,
But
you
that's
turned your phone off. It's not going to happen.
that's what happens though. Even by the way, with the things that you are choosing to like on social media pages, the accounts that you're choosing to follow, big data is being transferred all the time. And when that is occurring, we have to, as consumers, be aware that we are a part of, in that case, pop quiz. What kind of marketing is that? You guessed it, inbound marketing, and as opposed to outbound marketing, which is just random run-of-the-mill messages that get sent to you that are so disruptive that they catch your attention. Potentially an email marketing campaign with a catchy subject line, that YouTube content that has some kind of clickbait in the title that might attract you. There's a lot of different ways that they are able to bring you in. And it's not necessarily evil. They're just trying to do their job. And businesses should be open to those strategies as well.
Thank you. So there's a lot of talk about branding, right? Everybody's talking about brand all the time. How does that impact marketing?
Fantastic question. Your brand is basically, and especially in today's world, again, this is another post 2020 conversation here. Your brand is a reflection of the moral standards of your business, because businesses today are always choosing a cause to support. It's actually something that, from a back end, from a business development perspective, keeps your employees engaged as well. But when it comes to your brand, this is something that I learned from a mentor of mine that was just absolutely mind-blowing to me, is that if you were to be asked to define a brand, most people could never get that question right. You might think it has to do with the language you use, the color scheme you use, but that actually has nothing to do with a brand. A brand is the memory you leave behind with a customer.
Ooh, I love that.
So when my mentor explained that concept, he asked me, can you tell me the difference between T-Mobile and Sprint and the experiences you have in those stores? And I said, no. He says, exactly, because those are bad brands. But could you tell me the difference between a Trader Joe's and your local Ralph's? Absolutely, because grocery stores have good branding. So when you're able to make those distinctions like that, you are really able to, I think, create a personality for your brand, and then be for your business, and then be able to from there expand on the kind of content that is necessary to promote it.
You know, that's so much fun. Years ago, I worked with Rayleigh's grocery store in the Bay Area. Big. They're also Nob Hill. And they were at the time, so maybe 5 years ago, 75 years old. And they decided to explore why their grandfather, who started the chain, what their why was. And that became a huge part of their brand. And it was infusing life with health and happiness, which is a very interesting thing, because the drug department wanted to talk about drugs, and the grocery people wanted to talk about groceries, but they had to incorporate it all under one umbrella. And they used their why to do that. You know, I'm a why person, so that always fascinates me.
Absolutely.
So with all the marketing tools that are available, what should business owners prioritize most?
That's a fantastic question. And I'm going to give the answer that no business owner likes to hear, which is that it depends. And that's me being realistic, because let's say you're an attorney, right? There's actually been a lot of attorneys that have been going to TikTok because they've been able to spread messages about legal services and have been able to make it entertaining. So if you believe that you can create entertaining content around, very serious subjects and actually give helpful tips and advice actually really works well on TikTok, which is a free, easy to use platform. It's a marketing tool. There are other marketing tools like TikTok as well. There are American made brands as well, and platforms as well that do that. But TikTok right now has the best algorithm. When it comes to Instagram and Facebook, those places have been especially good these days for advertising specific products. Namely, we're talking about tangible items. So for example, if you are selling goods, like if you're B2C and you're selling bathroom appliances, for example, right? Instagram is always a fantastic place to show the aesthetic of a place and to use the proper hashtags, and also even boost your posts, create Facebook ads with your posts to be able to get out there. And then when you're able to, really pinpoint your audience after a bit of experimentation, you can really start to see some results and some revenue come in.
So, when you use LinkedIn a lot, what we've experienced with LinkedIn is that the algorithms are always changing. Is that true of TikTok and Facebook? Do they change a lot too?
I would say LinkedIn is the most slippery of changing algorithms, because I think LinkedIn at this current stage, right now it is June 6, 2023. LinkedIn hasn't decided the kind of platform it needs to be, even though it's already successful at certain things, like creating, professional B2B service profiles for individuals. It isn't as great as other things. If you look at LinkedIn, it's experimented with a lot of different concepts. But when it comes to the changing algorithms for Facebook and Instagram, there definitely has been change there. For example, now you don't really use Facebook to get discovered anymore, unless you're specifically doing a paid advertisement, right? So Facebook is great for personal profiles, getting in touch with old friends from high school, but also that paid advertising, right? With Instagram, we have seen the algorithms trying to catch up to the standards of TikTok, but we're not seeing it done as successfully, even though TikTok's algorithms are open to the public and available. The answer is TikTok is king when it comes to short form video content. It's just been doing so well, and they've been creating a very active and engaging community in that online space. So each platform has its own individual purpose at this point, or how you use it and who you are engaging with. Certain platforms have definitely alienated certain age demographics and professions into their own little sub demographics, if you will. And you just have to, be up with the times and be able to follow certain newsletters to know what's happening with what.
And this is why we need someone like you to guide us. Otherwise, it's a jungle, right?
I'll accept that plug-in. I appreciate that.
All right. So tell me, what trends or current events do we need to be aware of right now?
I think the biggest one, the biggest elephant in the room right now, is how AI is continually impacting the industry, whether it is the area of copywriting, whether it is your social media, whether it is content creation, whatever it is. And by the way, AI, there's new software is being developed all the time. By the time you're listening to this interview, there will be new AI that I'm not even aware of at this current stage and point in time. But the bottom line is that there's an entire writer strike happening in the film industry over the use of AI and how that might be impacting writers' careers in the film industry, which does have its, tie in with the marketing world and the advertising world. So we should always be aware of how AI is impacting us and how we can use those tools to strengthen our work, and also maybe even keep certain other tools at arm's length to make sure that we are still sounding human and being authentic to who we really are.
We're going to talk a little more about technology later, but for right now, how does someone choose what kind of content to use?
Fantastic question. I think there are some basic understandings for the kind of content that we choose to make. So I brought up earlier lawyers who are taking to TikTok to give advice on a regular basis. Those quick little bits of law, that's really been establishing good authority for attorneys. To a fault of the attorneys that are on TikTok right now making that kind of content, it's going to attract younger audiences. Younger audiences really can't afford those attorneys that they're generally working with. So there's a little bit of a problem there.
Yes, a little bit of a disconnect, right?
Right. So I would say that when it comes to the kind of content that you're choosing to create, think about what your demographics are doing. One thing that I've recently started to take part in, by the way, and this is inbound marketing, there is a type of marketing. I do not like the name of it. That's just the name of it, right? But it's called cult marketing. And cult marketing is the idea of getting a specific target audience. And you just have to ask each person individually, starting with a minimum of 30 people in your target audience, of what kind of content they are looking for, right? You have them fill out a survey. Would you be open to listening to a 10-minute video, a 20-minute video, or are you interested in only watching something under a minute? Another great question to ask is, when you are studying this concept, would it be helpful if the content was funny, or would it be helpful if the content was more serious and direct and straight to the point? When you are able to ask those questions, right, you're able to get your group, in this case called a cult, but it's not actually a cult, to answer your questions. You get them in a community group chat like WhatsApp or Discord or even a Facebook group, and you're able to engage with them on a regular basis and promote the content directly to them. So that way they're able to engage with it directly and be a part of something that's bigger than you. that's always really exciting. People love doing that, but you also have to get their permission to do so.
Ooh, that's really interesting because we have a WhatsApp group for our students,
Mhm.
and we would love for them to let us know what they want to learn.
Absolutely. I think sending out a survey and seeing where the holes are, where can we continue to provide more value? How can we add more features, low hanging fruit, basically? What can we do for free that would not take too much energy to create that would benefit our people? And then if there is something that is coming up enough that does require investment on your end, you should invest in it because they'll be super grateful to be a part of it.
Love that. So we hear a lot about digital advertising campaigns. What are the key elements for a successful one?
Fantastic question. I appreciate you asking that. Digital advertising campaigns are experimental in nature. You are giving money to a program that is going to have algorithms work in your favor for a temporary period of time to engage a specific audience for a temporary period of time. So I mean, and I really hate to, be superficial about this, but it really comes down to your budget. You do have to set aside a budget for your monetary spending. And that's not really a new concept. Paid advertising has been a concept all the way back until, the 1920s, even before that. It's been around for a long, long time.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the tools that we have today, they've really developed in this incredible way. And biggest thing, the biggest thing that you have to really put into account is your audience. And again, the concepts of your demographic, of, how old are you? Where are you from? What are the things that you're commonly interested in? Maybe you're interested in trips to where'd you mention earlier? Yeah, right. Right. So if you're interested on these trips to places, in Northern Europe, right, that will impact the kind of buying habits that your customers are looking for, especially in today's day and age, by the way, where there are so many advertisements going on, and also potential, turbulent economies, impacting businesses and employment, so on and so forth. We have been seeing, and this is not me, like we as media, but we as a marketing industry have been seeing difficulties in exactly how to pinpoint what our buyers will buy. And that becomes a whole new issue.
Ooh, ouch. So we hear a lot about SEO, right? Everyone's always talking about SEO, use the right words on your website. So what do you think? How can I optimize my website for a better search engine visibility?
Oh, fantastic question. Well, I think it really comes down to, I don't think, I know. It really comes down to, one, your web pages have to be up to date and relevant. They have to be in line with your brand. I think getting a good copywriter really emphasizes the point there. Some would be listening to this and argue, why not just use AI? Well, AI has a habit of creating some soulless content, So I think you can definitely SEO optimize something that you've written ahead of time with AI. That actually is an incredible use of AI, is have them write down a prompt, then SEO optimize it, and then have a copywriter come in and add the human touch that personalizes it. I think that strategy, using that page by page on your website, hyperlinking back to pages you're referring to, and then also continually adding new content and new verbiage on a regular basis, is going to be an incredible value add for the regular users that come to your website. And we're also going to see more traffic coming into your site as well.
Well, I want to share something about ChatGPT, but let's ask another question and then I'll tell you a tip I heard this morning.
Please, I'm always learning.
So Chaz, what ever-changing technology can impact the industry?
Yes, great question from me. We've talked about AI before, and we're seeing social media platforms now bringing on AI chatbots to come in and kind of act as customer support and to be able to provide tips. What's going to be happening as this becomes more and more common space in the DSL, the digital landscape, basically is the short form of that, is we are going to be seeing that these chatbots are going to basically be giving us, our particular profiles, insight on what that specific profile can do, to boost up its rankings. And I think in many different ways, we're going to be kind of at will to listening to those different chatbots, because there's a greater plan that's just beyond the specific brand of your business that might support, other brands later on, but it's going to be kind of facilitating its own content economy, so to speak, where if you are able to create content under this criteria, we'll make sure that you are getting this kind of traction and this kind of impression over time. That is one area that we're going to see. Right now, where we're still kind of in the prehistoric range of AI and social media. By the way, it's out there, so it's not necessarily prehistoric. But what I'm saying is that it's not developed to its full potential. And before we're at its full potential, currently following the different hashtags and the reels that we're seeing on TikTok and on Instagram, or other social media platforms, that will help a ton. I can't really comment on LinkedIn other than to constantly create content to engage with the people in your network, because LinkedIn hasn't really decided how it wants to really grow and be bigger.
So let me tell you a little tip I heard this morning.
Please.
I was on a group call, and someone shared a tip about ChatGPT. So I love ChatGPT. It stimulates ideas. Obviously all the content I write is my own, but it does kind of give me some ideas that I can share. So every time you do a new prompt or a new conversation, let's say in ChatGPT, there's all these tabs all along the side, right? So instead of creating a new tab every time, create one for your own business and teach ChatGPT about your business. And, here are the 10, ask me questions about my business so that you can learn what we really do. And then share these questions one by one. And that way, ChatGPT really learns about your business. Then when you ask it to give you an idea for an email, let's say, or a marketing piece, it knows you.
Yes.
But if you open a new tab every time, it doesn't get to know you the same way.
Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, we've had the chance to we've had that chance to experiment with that. Yeah, each tab might as well be considered a brand at that point.
Yes.
With each tab on the side, and I'll put up a little display of what exactly we're talking about, how ChatGPT looks like from a user interface perspective. We have been able to see that going back to old conversations really does, you don't have to reteach a certain concept. And it's almost like having an intern that you've hired come in and be able to help you with breaking that creative block that you might have to finish that content.
So that first interaction is like your onboarding of your intern.
Yes.
Here's what Mr. Thrive is all about. So why don't you share with us, how can Mr. Thrive Media make navigating the marketing jungle possible for our viewers?
Absolutely. And I'm really appreciate you asking that for me. What we've seen a lot of our prospects and people in our network do when approaching us, because they see podcasting, they come to us and they say they want a podcast. Well, we'll say, great, we would love to produce one for you. And what we do is we look under the hood of their digital ecosystem, as we call it, and we see that there are a lot of holes missing and incomplete. Maybe it's a poorly functioning website. Maybe it's a lack of SEO. Maybe it's mixed match branding. Maybe there's no paid advertising involved, no advertising campaign whatsoever to boost out their site. So there's no lead generation happening either. When we're lacking these areas, we actually recommend, and we create a comprehensive plan to get you there in different phases, the ability to start solving those problems until you're ready for a podcast. We view podcasting and the content creation around your brand as a late strategy game. If you implement that too early, you're going to be missing out on the most important thing, which is actually having a net to capture leads with. And when you don't have that ability to take in accurate information and to make meaningful strides, your company will falter. you'll be hemorrhaging the company, as a matter of fact. So we make it our ethical responsibility to make recommendations on getting the basics solved early before creating other kinds of content like podcast production.
Ooh, I love that. So do you have any final words of wisdom to share with our viewers today?
Absolutely. This is especially for the business owners that are listening to, the Bar Business School and the content that it is offering today. This is not necessarily related to marketing. This is more so a personal piece of words of wisdom. And that is that capitalize on your emotions, right? You're allowed to be emotional as a business owner. And I firmly believe that even if you are feeling a negative emotion, like sadness or anger, that in itself can be motivating. Anxiety, that can be motivating to get you to that next step. And that is very much where my company was created. We were created right in late 2019, early 2020. We really began to grow in the depths of 2020. And, I personally learned, I had this huge journey coming out of that space on how to channel these feelings into productivity. You can too. And you have to be aware of these emotions and just how they can possibly work for you.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, so Chaz, how can our viewers contact you?
I really appreciate you asking for me. And again, thank you for having me on on your podcast. Go to www.mrthrive.com. That is mrthrive.com, and fill out our contact form. You can reach us there. You can also reach us by DMing us on Instagram and Facebook under our Facebook page and Instagram account. That is at Mr. Thrive Media.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. Everyone, I'm Dr. Fermi Rachel Bard, and this is Navigating the Jungle of Business. See you next time.